IPM Nation. We're sitting here once again with Ginger Ferrer. And Ginger is, of course, the host of Leveling the Playing Field.
Right.
And Consider the What Ifs on MCAM, TV 23. And we had her on a little while ago for an IPMNation.com conversation, and she's back to talk about some more things. How are you today, Linda? Linda. Ginger. How are you today, Linda? Ginger.
I'll answer to anything as long as it's not bad.
I'm apparently not awake yet.
No, that's okay. I'll throw some coffee in your eyeballs.
All right.
Okay.
Fair enough.
No. Good morning, IPM Nation listeners. Some people might consider me even bitchy, but if bitchy means, I'll take the title if it means that, because I'm concerned about the way that some of the agencies of this country and at the local, state, and federal level are not fully monitoring adequately enough the wrongdoings that appear to be taking the lives of human beings in this country, which is supposed to be against the law. Then I'm a bitch, and there's no other way to put it.
In this forum, you can be as bitchy as you want.
Okay. Well, my bitching is also could be considered complaining, but I think that we have the right to complain when our officials are not protecting us as adequately and as ardently as they should be. I'm always on the internet looking for information, and I subscribe to many internet information websites, and one of them is Citizens for Health. And
is that citizensforhealth.com? Is that
Citizens for Health is, let me see, it's info@citizens.org. info@citizens.org.
okay?
And I got this the other day, March 24th, and it advises that we're hearing more and more news out of Washington, D.C., that there is an effort underway to divide the FDA into two separate agencies, one for food and one for drugs. Evidence for this move lies in a House Bill 875, which, if passed, will establish a new Food Safety Administration, FSA, and which will turn the existing FDA into the Federal Drug Administration. Pros and cons are circulating about this move, and we'll be reporting on all of it in the coming weeks. Now, we have had, since the Constitution became law, laws in this country that have been consistently broken. The FDA came into being in 1946. The APA was passed in the aftermath of the Depression and World War II to consolidate and standardize the expansion of government power as exercised through federal agencies. But as soon as positive medical or pharmaceutical or natural healing information was disseminated in those communities, the stop began. The stopgap went into mode, it went into gear, in the sense that they started suppressing and not disclosing fully the benefits of the healing that is already 70, almost 80 years of suppression.
Yeah.
I think I've talked about Royal Raymond Rife many times. In the 1930s, he invented a process, a telescope that could see so deep into the human anatomy that it could detect cancer cells at their inception.
Really?
At the beginning of their birth
Okay.
into the system. The Cancer Cure That Worked: 50 Years of Suppression, written by Barry Lyons, was kept from the world community because it was also known in Europe, in the European countries.
Yeah.
And American scientists who tried to advocate this across the world, when they got back to America, their grants were pulled. Their federal grants were pulled. Murder was committed to keep this suppressed.
Yeah.
And Barry Lynd's work was taken off bookshelves, which is a constitutional violation.
Absolutely.
Okay? And so in this book, there is, I think it's in this one, there is over 150 references from, let me see, from 151 references of people trying to bring this out. For instance, the National Cancer Institute and the 50 years of cover-up. The National Cancer Institute and the American Cancer Society are the biggest perpetrators of non-disclosure of a cancer cure that's been in evidence and proven since the 1930s.
Wow.
Let's see. How the U.S. government is blocking a cancer cure. Another one is medical genocide. The topic of cancer when the killing has to stop. I mean, the medical dark ages. Barry Lynd's had to literally go into hiding when he published this first book.
No kidding.
He couldn't get an American publishing company, so he had to go to Canada.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Published in Canada by Marcus Books, but now this is no longer available. But you can get it on the internet. Just put in Barry Lynd's in Google, and he has his own websites.
And Lynd's is Lynes.
Right.
Okay.
And this was the first book. This was the follow-up. The third book I didn't have the money to get.
Yeah.
But it really riled me when I think of how many people have suffered. And in the first book, it tells you about how officials whose wives or relatives were plagued with cancer asked Royal Raymond Rife to heal, and he did.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't allow the world to know about it.
Right.
And J. Edgar Hoover was involved in this. Richard Nixon was involved in this. So this is what kept my momentum going when it came to the Food and Drug Administration.
Yeah.
And the way they don't do things as opposed to the way they're supposed to do things.
Sure.
And all the political entities, starting from the city to the state to the federal level, that are complicit in these cover-ups. And the millions and millions of human beings. In fact, I wrote, I can't remember to whom I sent it because I write so many people that I forget to whom I say what.
Yeah.
But I said, if you take all the cancer victims, all the AIDS victims, because there's a cure for AIDS in this book.
Really?
There's a cure for tuberculosis, hepatitis.
Really?
All of these are in this book, and when you accumulate the world population that has been victimized by the worst kinds of cancer, and all of the others, AIDS, and you take what Hitler did, what Mussolini did, what natural disasters have done, and world wars, they don't come close to the human count of people that have been victimized by the lack of the disclosures that could have cured them. And there's money to be made. The pharmaceutical companies, if they practiced ethically, they could still make millions and billions of dollars, because people are born every day that get sick, and the natural products or the natural procedures that could eliminate that would make the money that they so greedily need.
Yeah.
And so I started to say, when I thought you were on the air, when I got sick on the job due to indoor air pollution that attacked my immune system, and my breathing ability, I was on five different inhalers.
Wow.
I had a chart on my kitchen cabinet door. I'll never forget it as long as I live. And I had a little glass shelf over my sink that was covered with prescription vials and all of these inhalers.
Okay.
It blew me up like a human balloon.
Yeah.
You would not believe. I'm big now, but I was like you couldn't even tell where my chin ended and my neck began
Yeah.
because I was so swollen.
No
And see
kidding.
the details in my hands?
Yeah.
My hands look like blown up rubber gloves. I was so
kidding.
swollen from all this medicine.
Wow. Huh.
And so when I went back to my allergist doctor, I told him I didn't want to take it anymore. I said if dying is the next step, then I'd rather do that than live this way.
Wow.
Because the pain was so acute from all these medicines clashing in my system
Yeah.
that it felt like something with very long nails was scratching to get out.
Oh,
My
wow.
skin hurt from the inside out. And
Okay.
I've met so many people that have experienced that because they were given medications that had nothing to do with their illness.
Right.
They were just, one prescription after another.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And sometimes the cost for the prescriptions, if Medicare hadn't been there, Medicaid would have been $3,000 a month.
Wow.
And so I went to see a respiratory doctor,
Yeah.
and they took me off all of the rest of it and started from scratch.
Yeah.
And for a while I was on a nebulizer, which is sort of like a backup system if your inhalers don't work.
Sure.
And I started meeting a lot of other people that had COPD or that had other medical afflictions or conditions that hurt them when they took it,
Yeah.
that literally hurt them when they took it. And then when I started seeing children dying because of exposure to lead paint and indoor air pollutions and other crap that passes for code compliance in this city.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably in every major city.
Yeah, but here, I can't attest except by written word from other sources, but I've seen it here. I've witnessed it personally.
Yeah.
And I've gone to places where I can't believe that the inspectors of this city would give it a certificate of code compliance.
Right.
I just don't understand how that is allowed. I don't understand how Commissioner Lafreniere has not used the strength of his title to oversee and correct those wrongdoings.
Yeah.
And I just don't get it. When Mayor Ginter, before he was elected, was an alderman, I started communicating with him. And he started responding. So that
Yeah.
encouraged me to keep going and
Sure.
provide him the information. I've written letters to Mayor Ginter at his home. I've called his office about numerous things, not because I'm a pain in the ass, but because the circumstances are not being resolved.
Yeah.
I've been advocating over a year for cones to be put in the middle of the street to reacquaint citizens that drive their cars that pedestrians have certain rights.
Yeah.
If they're walking in the crosswalk, they have certain rights.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And people in wheelchairs, people in that have disabilities that are not immediately evident, that have to walk slow. There's a lady that I can't remember her name. She's a tiny little thing, and she says that it's very hard for her to walk fast across the street because she has a back problem, and it hurts her if she tries to utilize too much energy
Yeah.
quickly,
Yeah.
and that her legs hurt. And so, why is it so impossible for people to understand that pedestrian has the right to get across the street? But the crossing time for a pedestrian is seconds.
Oh yeah, it's quick. Yeah.
It's so quick. And the other day, weekend before last, I was on the bus, and the bus had stopped right at Elm and Bridge.
Yeah.
And for some reason, everybody focused on the man that was in a wheelchair trying to get across the street.
Yeah.
And now, mind you, he's in a wheelchair, so he's moving fast.
Right.
Before he got fully halfway across, the ding, ding, ding started. The blinking light started.
Right.
And so everybody just went at the same time because they were worried about him because
Yeah.
the traffic starts to turn.
Sure. Yeah.
And so he finally got across the street, and everybody started commenting at the same time.
Right.
Wow, he didn't even get a chance to get fully across before that beeping started. And this is what I called Kevin something. I can't think of his last name. Let's see if I have it. He's in charge of the highway department. And I called and I spoke to him, and he says there's nothing wrong with the lights. People have enough time to get across.
Yeah.
And so I called City Hall last week, and I talked to one of McGinty's people, and he said he was going to email him and ask him to check into it.
Right.
I never got an email back.
Yeah, no surprise.
No response.
Yeah.
So if that means that I'm a pain in the ass, then I'm a pain in the ass, because human life is very valuable, and especially on Elm Street, the immediate downtown City Hall area, whoever planned that should have never got paid for what they did, because just after Spring Street comes Mechanic Street, and the automobile accessibility is very narrowed. It narrows down.
Right.
You've got these huge city buses. At City Hall, there's a bus stop, and right there behind it, it says no parking area, loading zone. You've got parents who stop there with their kids to take the music lessons, and they jam that up, and then there's only this one lane, and the bus cannot pull up to pick up and discharge passengers, and there's never a police car there or a police officer there to make those people move.
Right.
And so it delays the bus.
Right.
And then people that have wheelchairs have to wait until the bus pulls up to the bus stop, so then the ramp can be lowered so they can get on the bus.
Right.
And then the street widens up after Merrimack.
Yeah.
And it's not quite so bad. But that light at Spring Street on Elm, not Spring Street, Pleasant Street. Sometimes there's not even a light indicator for pedestrians.
Yeah.
It goes from red to green to red to green.
Sure. Yeah.
And people can't get across.
Yeah.
So why can't they just look into recalibrating all of those lights so that everybody knows that they have 10 seconds to get across the street instead of 6 or 8 seconds?
Right.
And just reacquaint the drivers of this city with the fact that there's a state law that pedestrians have the right of way. These are all the things that I moan and groan about every day,
Yeah.
because every day I see it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So but before I forget, one of the reasons that I showed you this magazine, Condé Nast Portfolio,
Yes.
is because it had an article written by Matthew Cooper out of Washington that the O Team, 7 behind-the-scenes economic players you need to know in the Obama administration. And it is my hope that sometime this week I'm going to get them out in the mail. I have to get special envelopes, because I like to get those clear plastic envelopes,
Yeah.
that mailing envelopes. Have you ever seen them?
I have. Yeah.
Okay, because maybe that'll catch the eye of the person who delegates the mail.
Yeah.
To Michael Froman, Deputy Assistant to the President, Lee Sachs, Treasury Department Advisor, Jean Lambrou, Healthcare Advisor, Gene Sperling, Counsel to the Treasury Department, Federal Communications Commissioner, he's a nominee, Julius Janachowski, Deputy White House Chief of Staff, Mona Sutphin, and Lael Brainard, State Department Advisor. And what I'm going to do is ask them to look into the unprotected processes of the disability programs of this country.
Yeah.
At the state level, where there's federal funds, where it's supplemented by federal funds, and at the federal level, the Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, subsidized housing, any program that has to do with the package of disability, disbursement.
Yeah.
Um, Too many employers and their insurance companies are getting away with fraud. The monitoring systems of this country need to be updated in the sense that when they investigate the validity of the applicant who has been forced to use those programs because they've been fraudulently denied by their employer, should be questioned.
Right.
Should be questioned. Make them accountable. Ask for an accountability. We have medical records here that indicate that this person was injured on your job, and prior to being an employee, they did not have these conditions or whatever, this
Right.
disability. Why are you? You have to explain to us why you have chosen to deny the claim.
Right.
And the insurance companies as well, because they have insurance investigators that are literally, I call them human pit bulls,
Yeah.
because they come at the employee like they want to kill them.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But see, most people are not aware. I wasn't aware. I was so shocked by her attitude and her accusations that it was like I got sucker punched.
Really? Yeah.
And most people, they don't know how to handle it, and I
Yeah.
didn't at
People
the
feel
time.
overwhelmed in that situation.
So there needs to be accountability, and
Yeah.
and if it's found that there was a fraud perpetrated by the employer and the insurance companies, there should be financial sanctions. There should be heavy fines that are in place for that very reason.
Absolutely.
The money that's been paid out by those programs need to be reimbursed. The monies that they collect from fines would fund those monitoring systems.
Yeah.
It would pay for itself. And the billions of dollars that would be saved would be unbelievable. Veterans would probably get better care. People that truly deserve medical coverage would get it.
Right.
But if you continue to allow these people, including the FDA, because of the prescription factor in the disability status of a person, to continue to charge these outrageous prices for prescriptions, and it becomes the responsibility of an unwanted and imposed responsibility of the American taxpayer to provide, because of the programs that their money is delegated to. It's a happy, just like these bonuses that were given to these AIG and whatever. Now they're getting them back. But the
Yeah.
point is that they're being rewarded for being crooked. They're
Oh, yeah.
being rewarded for looting the system. And I don't care who the hell the employer is. David Nixon was my employer. I pleaded with this guy to look into the situation.
Yeah.
And he ignored it. So he helped perpetrate the fraud.
Absolutely.
The
Yeah.
insurance company and the investigator,
Yeah.
they have to be held responsible because they are stealing money from the American people. And nobody seems to see it that way, at least in government. So
Right.
this is the content of the material that I'm going to be sending to these 7 offices, because I've already sent it to Barack Obama's office
Sure.
and to Joe Biden's office. I have articles on ezinearticles.com to that very concern. And it's out there.
Yeah.
But I feel with this new administration that if this guy is as tough as he appears to be, Michael Froman,
Yeah.
that he's gonna want to look into it, at least preliminarily,
Yeah. Yeah.
to see if there's any validity to it, and to find a way to update it so that there's a code that they could put into the processing system of disability applications. Denied by employer, DE, employer denied or denied employer.
Yeah.
And they can contact the employer and ask him or her or them why, you must prove why
Right,
you feel
right.
that you have the right to deny this claim.
Right. Yeah.
And the fact that the insurance companies expect a person who has become disabled to lay in a bed, dry up, and blow away and die.
Right.
They're not supposed to be able to walk, talk, function, do anything. They're not supposed to use the rest of their body, whatever part is not disabled,
Right.
to get around. They sit there with their cameras and their videos to catch you on a roof, because I heard a story about a man who was disabled on the job, and to save money he decided to try to tile his own roof.
Yeah.
Now that's a momentary thing. That's not a 40-hour-a-week
Right. Right.
function.
Yeah.
So the cameras came out.
Oh, of course.
He
Yeah.
lost his disability rights.
Yeah.
So that's cheating. It's
Yeah.
absolute cheating, and it's been condoned for too long. The other side of the coin is that there are frauds by employees,
Yeah.
and no question.
Oh, sure. Yeah. It
You know,
happens. Absolutely.
But when the insurance companies and employers obviate the law and dismiss the validity of a truly injured employee, then they've broken the law and they need to be answerable.
Right.
And I think the American taxpayer would be very relieved to find that somebody's finally going to do something about it.
Yeah.
So,
I hope so. Yeah. All right. And,
tell me, what does anything I say feel right to you about my concerns?
oh, absolutely. These are this is important stuff, and it's also things that you don't hear about. You're not going to get any of this from the media.
Absolutely not. The first thing they're going to look for is the chink in your armor.
Right.
But what about the chinks in their armor?
Right.
Bill
Right.
O'Reilly comes to mind.
Yeah.
God, he's such a joke.
I know.
And he gets paid so well for being so arrogant.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They
It-
love him. They love him. But
Well,
yes,
he's got the constitutional right to be an idiot. So,
absolutely, he does. He does. But no, but somebody has to bring this stuff to the forefront.
yeah, because you've got young men and women right now that are getting ready to graduate and go to college. And they've been taught the blind way. And some of them will fall victim because they think the system works because it's supposed to work.
Right.
But if you don't put caution or precaution in your thought processes, you could get caught and trapped so quickly.
Sure. Absolutely.
This is 20 years this year for me. 20
Yeah.
years.
Really.
I've lost two. I lost my biological father and my dad. We've had two deaths in this family that I couldn't be there for.
Oh wow.
My family had to. I literally sold my washing machine to pay for the gas so that my sister could pick me up from Massachusetts to drive to New York to go to my father's funeral.
Wow. No kidding.
He died in Texas and his body was shipped up here, up north to be buried in the military cemetery, Calverton Military
Yeah.
Cemetery. And a lot of wrongdoings happened during that process. The funeral home that was supposed to forward the balance of the monies that they were paid to pay for the funeral in New York never happened.
Yeah.
I think I spoke to about this before in the first show. The thing is that there's people looking every which way you could possibly conceive of trying to get over. If they see
Sure.
that you're vulnerable, if you see you're inexperienced, if they see that you're a pushover, they're gonna take all that they can take from you.
Absolutely.
So I urge people of any and every age to advocate for yourself, to
Yeah.
check it out. Don't take a person's word for it. It doesn't mean you're insulting them.
Right.
It just means that you want to check it out. Like a car, when you buy a car, do you just, oh, this is a good car, I'm going to buy it.
Right,
Without
yeah.
checking it out? Well, isn't your life worth more than that car?
Of course. Yeah. You have to protect yourself.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because today on the internet you can find out anything, anything, and then you can confront the person and say, "Look, this is what I found out. Is this, is this accurate or whatever? Whether it's insurance for a car, insurance for yourself, what will it cover? Get the fine details,
Absolutely.
the ones that they don't easily provide for you."
Right, right.
So I think it's time for me to go.
Okay.
How much time was that?
We're at about a half hour. If there's anything else you want to
No, I just urge people to just be selfish enough to love yourself enough to protect yourself.
Well said. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Absolutely.
your family, your home, lock every door. I think that everybody who rents or owns their own home should have an inside lock that cannot be opened with a key from the outside.
Yeah.
Do you remember the girl that was kidnapped and found, a beautiful blonde girl? I can't think of her name. She was kidnapped from her home, and they thought, for all intents and purposes, that they would never find her. And 8 months later, she was found
Oh, okay. Yeah.
by these religious fanatics.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
Do you know why that happened?
No.
Because they hired workers. The man had some work done on his property, and it must have been inside the house as well as outside, because they had a key to get in the house.
Okay.
And instead of changing the locks after all that work was done,
Yeah.
one of the guys that was hired as he wasn't part of the original crew, but they hired these people as add-ons
Yeah.
without checking out their background.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
this guy came in there with a key at night when the family was asleep and kidnapped that girl.
Wow. Okay.
So, if you would just think about getting a deadbolt lock
Yeah.
that can only be opened from inside of your apartment,
Right.
keeping
That's a good idea.
predators out,
It's a good idea.
because you've got people that since this building was taken over, the lock system has changed, but.
Yeah.
A person can keep a key once they move out, even though they return a key. There's no guarantee that they didn't make
Of
a
course.
duplicate
Of course.
and
Yeah.
come into the apartment when you're not there and clean you out.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So
Sure happens.
these are the things that I think about all the time. Not because I'm callous and suspicious, but because I'm precautious. Because it's happened too many times. The news is full of it.
Sure.
Every
Yeah.
single day there's a victimization. So I just caution people to not trust blindly,
Right.
to trust cautiously,
Absolutely.
anything and everything. So that's all I have to say for now.
Okay. And did you want to mention the two shows that you have on?
Oh.
We should plug those.
Yeah, Consider the What If is a call-in show from 10 to 11 a.m. on Channel 23 at MCAM, Manchester Community Access Media. It is a freedom of speech station, and if you've got something to say, as long as it's valid
Right.
and not a personal attack, it's just to get even with somebody. But if you have valid concerns that really need the light of day, and for it to be heard, you can call the station at 413-6085 during airtime. And if you want to become a producer to advocate, you just go to your computer, mcam.org, and find out the information, or call the station at 622-3023 and ask when the next producers classes are coming up.
Right. Right.
And they can come in and they can learn how to operate the equipment and what is expected and what their advocacy is about, and they put on a list, and when there's an opening, they become a producer. And the other show is Leveling the Playing Field. I'm thinking about changing it to Leveling Your Playing Field. That's a videotape show where it's 28 minutes long. It airs, my particular show airs at 9 o'clock. I'm thinking that this is wrong. I think it's 8 o'clock. but you can check. It reruns on Sunday at 2:30 p.m., but I think it's still at 9 p.m. on Thursday.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Thursday night, and if you want a copy of any show, you can call me and I can burn one and get it to you. But the thing is, to advocate for the right reasons, for the positive reasons, for constitutional reasons, that is more helpful than damaging.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
these people have so many people living in fear. There are property owners and real estate people, good and bad, that are holding tenants in this community and citizens of this community hostage in unacceptable living conditions, and they have to be stopped.
Absolutely.
Have to be stopped. So Matt, I thank you so much for the opportunity.
You're welcome, Linda. Thanks for coming back on. Well, I did it again. Why do I keep calling you Linda?
I
Ginger.
haven't got a clue.
I don't know.
Ginger.
Yes. Wow. That's so weird.
It's cool.
I don't usually do
It's
that.
cool.
I've never called you Linda before today. That's so weird.
Well, maybe you're going to meet somebody named Linda.
Maybe you were Linda in a past life.
This is true. I was going to say that, but I didn't know if you wanted that on the air.
That's always Norm's excuse when you get someone's name wrong.
Well, it's possible, because I don't know, but my nickname is Ginger. My official name is Julia Estelle Ferrer. That's my mom's name, so I'm sort of like a junior. But I was called Ginger since I was little because I was born with dark hair and dark eyebrows when my sister and brother were born blondes.
Yeah.
And so my mother thought I looked spicy.
Yeah. Oh.
So she called me Ginger.
Oh, that's cool.
And so I go by that because my name is very long.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I'll answer to Linda if that's what it takes. If that's what it takes.
All right. Well, thank you, Ginger,
Okay.
for coming
Okay.
on today.
Okay.
And, we'll see you again soon.